Welcome to the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm the host of the podcast where we talk about all things HR tech, leadership, AI, world of work, and much, much more. All of our guests are all HR, TA, leaders, practitioners from around the world. And so this is a really good episode, as I always say. So the topic is Growing Beyond Borders, What Global HR Teaches You About Leadership. So we have a fantastic guest, Stephanie Matzos, who I'm going to bring in shortly. But before we bring Stephanie in, I'm just going to talk a bit about the actual topic here, set the stage, the context, and cue it up. But prior to that, these episodes live on our website, GoScaleHR.com, also on YouTube as well. And we are going to be launching on Spotify and Apple Podcasts soon, and also Work Defined, which is a cool podcast platform for HR and HR tech podcasts. So, very, very exciting. And so, once again, this topic is all about global HR and then what it teaches us about leadership. And so, I'm just going to start off by making just a couple of points, right, just to set the stage. So, obviously, as companies go into new markets, whether they actually acquire a company, build teams around the world, which is becoming more and more popular, the role of HR changes quite a bit. What starts out as a people function quickly becomes a business function. And I've said that a lot. That touches growth, culture, operations, leadership, and strategy. That's the first point. The second one really is very important. While global growth creates complexity, it also creates many opportunities. Few experiences accelerate leadership development more than helping a company scale across countries, cultures, and business environments. There are many Canadian HR leaders who don't get the opportunity to work in different markets, and I can't tell you how awesome it is to see companies that do allow or have that opportunity afforded to their HR leaders. And so so we're going to talk about some of the lessons, opportunities, and insights that come with leading HR on a global stage. And so with that, I'm going to bring in our guest, Stephanie Matzos, and she's going to help us break it all down. So Stephanie, welcome to the Unmuted Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So where are you right now? Because last time I talked to you, you were somewhere in Florida. Before that, you were somewhere overseas. Before that, you were downtown Toronto. So where are you?
Today I'm in Toronto. In my office. Our office is, I do work for a company called ZenaTech, and our office operations are in Toronto, one of many offices all over the world. So today I'm here.
So that you answered my first questions, which was, what do you do? So you answered a bit of that. Is there anything maybe you want to tell our viewers about what you do?
Sure. So I am the HR global leader for all of ZenaTech. So ZenaTech, we are an AI drone company. We have our two sides of our business. So we have a side that's drones as a service, but we also have a SaaS side to our business. With all that being said, we are opening up offices all over the world. And my part in that, and what I do is I help with the recruitment strategies. I help with helping all the logistics behind opening up a new office when it comes to the people part of it. And there's so much more to go. We need to start looking at implementing all HR, all things HR, implementing performance management all over the world, implementing pay scale and pay ranges all over the world. And everything from, A to Z, essentially from HR is what I do. So, and we're just getting started, and we're growing at a really rapid rate in all over the world. So we're really excited about it, but that's essentially what I do.
So when you say global, which countries are you talking about here? I know that there are a lot. So which one, maybe off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, so obviously Canada, US, we're in Europe, so we're in Ireland, we're in Germany, we're in UK, we are in the Asian region as well, so we're in Taiwan, we're in the Philippines, South Korea, Vietnam, we just opened in Australia as well. And off the top of my head, I'd have to look at my board to see all the locations we're at right now. But that's just a start for now. And then we are definitely going to South America next, and then expanding from there also.
Well, that's wonderful. So let's get right into the questions, okay? But before I do, so you said that ZenaTech does drones, which was really interesting, because when I came across ZenaTech for the first time about a year ago, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, I spoke to someone at ZenaTech, and naturally I go to the website and I check it out and I see drones and then I see HR software. And then my first question was, what on earth does HR software have to do with drones?
Right.
But then I
Yeah.
realized that they're actually separate
Yeah. That's
companies.
on the SaaS side of our business.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Okay, so obviously you've had the opportunity to support a rapidly growing global company.
Yes.
So how has that experience changed the way you think about leadership, HR, and business?
Okay, so I would say that the way that it's changed is, I mean, in generally, rapid growth can expose a lot of things of processes, culture, environment, all that kind of stuff. Typically, if you had a more secured environment, those gaps wouldn't be as noticeable. But as we're opening up, as we are expanding at such a rapid pace, there's things that are coming up all the time. There's gaps, you do that gap analysis, or things just kind of come up all the time anyway. You'll see the things that you need to fill, all the things that we're missing. So, we'll go in with a basic strategy plan into a new country. We'll have the hiring plan. We'll have all the logistics behind it. But there's obviously going to be gaps based on the different compliances, the different legals, the different everything that comes in with, expanding into a new country. There's, I'm not going to lie and say I know every employment law all over the world, because I don't. And so as we're expanding and as we're growing, I'm learning. I'm seeing all the legal laws, all the labor laws that we need to be compliant with, and finding those gaps where we need to fill it to make sure that we are compliant with their, not even just from a legal point of view, but just from a culture standpoint too, because every country is going to be different on how you conduct business and how you move forward like that. And then from a leadership standpoint, and how my experience has kind of changed my way of how I look at the leadership part, I would say that it's having to put trust into building our systems and allowing for growth without physical presence there. Even though I've had the opportunity to travel to some of the locations that we've been to, I haven't been to every single one all over the world.
Yeah.
So making sure that it becomes less about control and more about coordination. So anybody that you're hiring, like an office manager for example, to put in place there, making sure that you put your trust in them to do the operations, to work on your behalf. If you're hiring HR people on your team around the world, putting that trust in them as well, to making sure that they're doing everything in different time zones, making sure that, because you can't be awake every 24 hours a day, unfortunately, to, look over everything and to make sure everything's good. So again, it becomes more about trust and coordination versus, control from a leadership standpoint.
We're going to get into this a little later, but obviously, culture is a huge part, right? And
Right.
So I'm going to park that part for a minute.
Okay.
Because my experience with culture, obviously, when you're dealing with different countries of the world, culturally are so different. And
Right.
I mean, that was a huge thing. But as you start to expand globally, what are the biggest opportunities that you think HR leaders have to influence growth and business outcome? I ask about that from a business standpoint because I've said over and over again during my career that HR is a business function, full stop,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Right. And so that's why I always try to bring that out. So what are the biggest opportunities?
No, I think that, one of the greatest things is that you get to be, as an HR person, you get to be like an architect, I guess you could say, with working with other leadership people within your organization to, to build your global talent strategy, to know what your hiring strategy is going to be, and then also, architecting and building, defining the culture as well. So, I mean, you don't want to necessarily, there's always that big debate of, do we want to have everybody operate the way that headquarters operates, or do we give them free reign on, let them do what they want, but that might be too loose, because you don't want everybody to kind of, you want to have some core values and core beliefs on, how you operate your things. So it's all about having that balance, I believe. And there's some non-negotiables, and when implementing a culture, I think you can say, but then there's also leaving room for that local expansion based on what the culture is, based on the country that they're in, so they can implement that and grow that into their culture as well. So I think that balance is rare, but it's extremely valuable once you get it right. So, different countries that we do operate in, there might be some things that they do different on a daily basis, or how they conduct business versus Canada versus US, whatever it may be. So leaving that allowance for their to implement that into their culture, and then also implementing ours as well, and having that consistency across the world.
So it's almost like localizing a global strategy, right?
Right.
What I used to always call it, when I was
Right.
leading HR. right? So you obviously have to have some standard at the top that is sort of, this is what we do, this is what we're striving towards, but then allowing local market to interpret that for themselves. And so the next question is really about culture, as I mentioned earlier, which is
Right.
probably the most important part of all of that. So how
Mhm.
do you create a sense of consistency, right, and shared culture
Right.
across different countries while still respecting the local realities and ways
Right.
of working? So one example that I always had was when I did a lot of work with India,
Right.
right? And so I've done a ton of work there. It's night and day, compared to Canada. So to have their
Right.
work, what, some of their, preferences are, how they naturally sort of go about teams, it's just completely different and it's eye-opening for me. So how do you create that, consistency and shared culture in different countries while still trying to, respect the local realities?
Yeah. No, for sure. Like kind of piggybacking what I said earlier too, like we have to understand that obviously different cultures are going to be different across the board, even in different, provinces in Canada or different states in the US, they're more local to what we understand. But it's about keeping those core values and beliefs. So how we operate here is we are a very tight knit team. We work with all the different countries on a daily basis. I speak with people in Ireland on a daily basis. I also speak with people in Australia on a daily basis. I would almost think that they're in the next room. That's how often we're in conversations with each other. But it's all a matter of being that collaborative team together, having those weekly meetings, making time for each other, being sensitive of each other's time zones, excuse me, and making sure that that's our core values. Those are our core beliefs on how we operate. As we show that to our new offices, and as we continue to do those things, the new offices kind of follow suit, and they see what works well, what is positive. Typically, that positivity, at least from my experience and how I've seen it work in this company specifically, is that all the new offices follow the positivity. They want to operate the way we do because they know it's successful for us. They know it works for us. So keeping those core values, those core beliefs, and how we work together positively on a creative way, being creative with our time zones meetings. I mean that. So yeah, just as long as everybody kind of follows suit, that's been our success so far and how it's worked out. So I think that's the best way to do it. Just people want to follow what works best and what's the most positive way to go through.
You talked about time zones.
Right.
So that was always an issue. So do you actually sleep?
I do. I do sleep. But there's flexibility, right? So
Is there like a bed next door or something like that? Like you sleep in?
you can't see it. It's over here. No, I'm just kidding. There's like understanding, especially when we were doing, I'll give you an example. We were hiring I had to do my regular Toronto hours. I've got staff in Vancouver, so that takes up that time. We were also hiring in Australia and Vietnam simultaneously. So I was doing interviews. I was on the night shift. I was calling myself like the nocturnal hermit almost because I was at home trying to do the interviews and stuff like that. So yes, I do sleep. I get some, but it was temporary. And then as soon as we get the office and things up and running in there, I'm going to get my HR support in there. We have our office. We have really great people in place now, and I'm really happy I did it because we did get great people there to support the functions going forward. So I do sleep, yeah.
I think you need to invest in some AI agents that can actually hire for you. We've actually talked about that.
We did talk about that, yeah.
Yeah. So let's turn to more other HR leaders or your peers. So for HR leaders who aspire to take on a global role, what do you think the skills, mindset, or actual experiences need to be that have the greatest impact on their success?
Yeah, for sure. So as you're expanding into different global markets, you experience a whole entire world of learning. So like I said before, you learn new labor laws, new compliances. In addition to, the great part is you get to meet different people from all over the world. You get to experience the different cultures from all over the world, which not a lot of companies or a lot of jobs get to do that. So it's a really cool opportunity to work with too. And it's really great because you kind of start with every time you open up in a new country or a new region or wherever you are, you kind of have this blank slate or a blank canvas where as a leader you get to paint what your vision of leadership is. And it's really great that we have that flexibility here too, where it's not cookie cutter every single where we go. We have that flexibility to like I said, paint on this blank canvas and working with the other leadership team as well in the different departments, whatever's going to be operating in that country or in that specific office. How we can make it successful, what we can do. So all of us being subject matter experts, and whether it's in marketing, whether it's in HR, whatever it may be, we all have our input and putting in towards what success will look like. So having that open mindset, especially to collaboration with other leaders, I think is part of the biggest part of success, and making sure that, you're not just stuck on one item and, this is how I know it should be, or this is how I think it should be. Being open-minded to other leaders as well in your organization, to make sure that, I think based on this culture, maybe we can adjust things certain ways to make it more successful there, and having that flexibility to do that. So yeah, so make sure that you're collaborative, open-minded, and you can work well with your other leadership team, and not being kind of stuck in your ways is I think the best recipe for success, I guess you could call it, to make sure that it would be the greatest impact to be successful as you're opening up and as you're expanding into the global markets.
I think that is excellent advice, because I think being open-minded and flexible and really listening, because I think the natural tendency is for you to say, well, I'm ZenaTech, this is how it's going to be. Well, unfortunately, that's not how it works. That's the
Right.
recipe for absolute failure, because you're going to a new country that you know absolutely nothing about. So you need to come from a place of really, listening and asking a lot of questions, because, as I said earlier, when I started working with the countries like India, Singapore, and Australia, even other places, they're very, very different. I mean, how they
Mm-hmm.
actually do things and their expectations is completely different than here in Canada. So many years ago, I remember when Target, obviously you know what Target is, right?
Yes, yes.
Target came into Canada,
Right. I
and
remember
it
that.
just bombed. It completely, pardon my language, effing bombed. Why is that? Because they thought they could take a U.S. approach and just slam dunk it in Canada. Well, they didn't listen. They
Right.
didn't ask any questions. They didn't seek out how things work here, and so Target blew up in what, like 12 months. They spent billions on it, with a waste of money. So anyway, okay. So I asked everybody this final question, and the question is: if our viewers what is that one thing?
Yeah, so I would say that one thing that understanding that when you're going into global markets, it's all about being collaborative with your team. It's not a one man show. You do have to take other people into consideration. It's all about working collaboratively with everybody, and like I said, in different departments, all that kind of stuff too. So, and also if you stay true to your core values, your core beliefs of what your company, how your company operates, especially from a people perspective, I think that it's something that would be successful no matter how you operate. So it's just keeping together with your team, keep an open communication constantly. It's just, I think that's the best way to go forward.
Fantastic. I think that is an excellent segue into the end. So thank you, Stephanie, very much for being here. Great learning about your career journey, and obviously we'll have many more conversations as you go forward. So we will share all of Stephanie's contact links on our video. So this is the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm the host, also the founder of Scale HR, Social HR Camp, the HR and Tech Crawl, and much more. And all of our episodes live on our website at GoScaleHR.com and on YouTube as well. Please share your comments. I want to hear from you. I love a good conversation. So yeah. So Stephanie, thanks for being here, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.